What is life? Of course, it depends on who you ask, but one thing is certain: no definite answer is possible. I think many people would agree that life is about experiencing things, creating things, making something a better place, self improvement, and is probably about love, although the word love is quite irrational. Irrational to such an extent that some people would prefer to abandon it altogether, some highly practical people, because where emotions get in the way, reason recedes. Emotion and reason seem to be at the opposite extremes. In practice, as long as emotions are in hand and reason is applied, everything should be just fine. But is reason of greater value? Why do reason and emotions seem to be in conflict? Is there such a conflict? Life presents herself to us within a certain framework, and it's up to us to decipher that which is hidden. Why would we want to unveil what nature presents to our senses, and why does nature operate in such a fashion? Why can't it reveal to us things the way they actually are? Of course, we, human beings, can only guess, but if what the theory of evolution tells us is taken into account, it seems that nature provided us with everything essential for survival, that is, for running, hiding, hunting, and down the list. In other words, we've been given everything we need to satisfy the basic criteria, not more and not less, because all the complexity under the veil was originally completely irrelevant, as it is irrelevant to animals. But at the same time, we've been given something else. Apparently, the creation of cars, computers, cell phones, planes, and satellites by human reason was not originally planned by Mother Nature. The necessity for such technical wonders arises along the way as human desires, that is, motives, find more intricate ways. Fundamentally, human motives remain the same, but the ways to their satisfaction become more and more complex. This is our modern world, just another layer to the immutable underlying core, just another shadow on the same wall. But what is life? There's no way of knowing. Science provides a more complex explanation after another, and no limit to the process can probably be set, for any explanation is just a relative explanation within a certain framework. Philosophy, on the other hand, tends to detach itself from the palpable and then gets stuck right away in the clouds of fantasy. Life seems to be subject to no ultimate explanation. Whatever it actually is, it is out of the domain of any possible knowledge, because knowledge rests on something taken as given, because knowledge arises somewhere along the way, but it's not the origin. It is the conditioned, but not the condition itself. So why bother? George Byron's Eat, Drink and Love comes to mind. Technical progress in all its might allows us to use natural phenomena more efficiently for our ends, but nevertheless, on a subjective level, there seems to be a great gulf between knowledge and immediate experience. Knowledge is based on what we experience and allows us to derive the implicit relationships between different concepts constructed by means of language. As the number of such discovered hidden relationships grows, knowledge becomes more and more advanced. But knowledge, which is information, no matter how complex, can never replace my qualia, that is, what I experience, how I feel about life itself. It seems to be something of a completely different nature, a complete mystery. In this respect, the growth of knowledge is similar to adding more and more stories to the original foundation. The building itself becomes taller and taller. It affords us better and better views as we go up the stairs. But these views have nothing to do with the foundation itself. Reflecting on all this, it seems that all previous knowledge comes to be irrelevant, as if I'm trying to arrive in a roundabout way at something lying immediately before me. It lies immediately, but can't be grasped. I feel that I'm alive, I even know it, I'm certain of it, but what is it that makes me alive? Whatever I am, I must be something. What is this something? The feeling of being alive. What theory could explain this deep experience? To which floor of the building should I get to see the foundation? Will the addition have new stories to the building finally provide us with the key to the foundation? Schopenhauer would answer in the negative. While scientists try to explore the farthest recesses of the universe, each human being is a much bigger mystery to himself. As human knowledge increases in time, leading to a more sophisticated use of natural phenomena, nevertheless, the essence of life remains the same. It never changes. The struggle never ends. It seems as if we can never understand life rationally, although we can sense it. Having written these lines, I feel content. I'm experiencing something that can only be labeled with a word, but not communicated. Anyway, it's such a great pleasure to be able to break free from the shackles of everyday routine, at least from time to time, to really appreciate life. That's all I need. Just a bench in the park is enough. The birds are singing. A friendly wind is gently touching. The sun is shining, traveling deliberately across the vault of blue. Maybe life doesn't need understanding. This could be for the better. Of course, we live in the modern world, and we need technical knowledge and skills, but all of that can only make us happy if the state of mind is tranquil. Otherwise, routine, which is pretty much any job, devours us alive, because all technical knowledge is subject to human motives and is of no value of its own. Sometimes the vicious circle seems to be unbreakable. To satisfy motives, man has to work. The more his motives get satisfied, the more they demand in return, which leaves no room for any detached contemplation, one of few sources of real happiness, because that's the only way to be with your true self. But the vicious circle seems to be at the core of what we usually see around, the endless pursuit of that which you can't have. We crave for the inaccessible to us, even if we finally get what we've been chasing so long. Eventually, we find emptiness and sorrow. The age of consumption imposes its own rules on us, one could say, but I think it just conforms with human motives, plays along with them. Consumption is a manifestation of human motives. Almost everything man-made we experience around us in ordinary life is a manifestation of human motives, with rare exceptions. But what is life? I once heard that as soon as one starts asking himself such a question, something must be wrong with his life. The question is so grandiose that no definite answer could be given in principle. Life just happens to exist, and it's up to everyone to choose how he or she wants to live, although some philosophers say that there is no such thing as free will, that we, human beings, actually have no choice, that it's a mere illusion, everything is determined. Well, that could be the case. In the end, life itself could be a mere illusion, except for the fact that whatever it is, I, the one who gets deceived constantly, should be something real, whatever I am. But what's the point of such knowledge? Again, I find myself in the clouds. How could it actually help me live? If everything around me is an illusion, so be it. From all this follows that even though some metaphysical questions and conjectures are of interest to us, in the end they are of little value for practical life, pure abstract speculation. From this I conclude that reason can easily lead us astray like any folly, especially as soon as reason leaves the narrow path of facts, something tangible, so to speak, and enters the region of pure speculation. In such a case, castles in the air are everything reason ends up with. In this respect I am in complete agreement with Descartes and Schopenhauer. Philosophy should start from the most immediate, that is, self-consciousness, and stick to the facts science provides us with, from the particular to the universal. But nevertheless, between self-consciousness and the world around us, there seems to be an impassable gulf. The only real benefit of all philosophy seems to be the getting into the habit of thinking for yourself. Philosophy helps structure the vision of life in general terms, raise good questions, but can barely give us any definite answers. At the same time, there are so many things we can sense without being able to understand by reason. Sometimes I think that the wisdom of the great people of the past was nothing more than their ability to detect what was happening on a totally different level, as if they were able to peek under the veil of life to get closer to the foundation. They were wise even without modern knowledge. I think wisdom has nothing to do with science. There are things that could be arrived at by mere feeling, by experiencing something deeply inside. They're not even emotions, I think, even though they are directly connected with them. One thing is clear: the most fundamental things of our lives could only be described, but never really expressed. As an example, human language as a means of communication presupposes that we share the same experiences first-handedly. The power of language rests on experience. I could describe something as red or blue based on the assumption the person I'm talking to shares human experience because he is a human, that he has eyesight, or at least that he used to have it if he no longer can see. Otherwise, there would be not much point in describing the color of something. I heard that blind people develop a special tactile sense for color, but that's a totally different experience I can't really relate to, just like a person born blind can't really relate to the color experience sighted people have. It's interesting, even when it comes to healthy sighted individuals, we can't really make sure that what one identifies as red causes the exact same experience in the head of another person. That's what philosophers call qualia. We can only presume it, based on similarity between humans, that what two persons identify as red is actually the same thing on the subjective level, but there is no way to know for sure. We can't share our experiences directly. The same is true for all human experiences. If some experience is more specific, let's say, has something to do with a different culture, the misunderstanding arises. In other words, everyone's locked up inside his own consciousness, inside what he has in perception. And if one arrives at something directly, there is actually no way to communicate it to another. The experience can only be shared with someone who has arrived at something very similar. That's the only way to establish the connection by means of language. But the thing is, there is not much need for such a connection between two individuals who share the same experience, precisely because the thing is clear to both of them. There is probably no need for any discussion whatsoever. Like in ordinary life with two persons, If one says that the white wall before his eyes is white, the other can only agree without saying a word, because it's just a self-evident fact. There's probably not much to add in this respect, just a white wall like any other. But in the end, life is not that long to stay in the clouds all the time. I find contemplation a great source of pleasure, but it comes at a cost. In conclusion, all knowledge presupposes some kind of framework. Life probably can't be understood completely, not because it's a highly advanced knowledge, but because it's not subject to any knowledge in principle. Now, on the other hand, why would I reject everything I experience directly in perception in favor of something that can only be arrived at by an intricate chain of reasoning? There is no doubt that the true nature of the world has very little or probably nothing to do with what our senses tell us. That's what physics tells us. On the most fundamental level, there might be no time, no space, there might be nothing. That is what is beyond any possible physical framework, just metaphysical darkness without any shape or form, existing without any goal, because goal presupposes knowledge, and knowledge the brain. What am I supposed to do with such a knowledge? Nothing. It is of no practical value, because it is irrelevant to me living my life in a physical framework. The claim that the world is an illusion is as old as the hills, so what? In what direction is it going to affect my life? All this chain of reasoning obliges me to conclude to myself, just live, do things you believe in, experience the world around you without harming other people. The book of nature will reveal to you as much as you need to know. Reason will allow to connect some of the dots lying a bit deeper, those which have hidden relations with the rest of natural phenomena. Speaking of these relations, some of them are discovered by science, some are just patterns of life that emerge from history and could be found in poetry, philosophy, in good literature, in a word, what could be called wisdom, and some dots you will be able to connect by a mere feeling, those that lie beyond reason, but in the end stick to reality. Life is a mystery. You can go way beyond in thought, but you'll end up with building castles in the air. To avoid this, get busy living, and after all, maybe Byron was indeed right.